We take this conversation further and the significance indeed of former President Thabo Mbeki going to the Free State and how his visit may or may not contribute to the ANC's road to renewal and rebuilding of the organization. And of course, we take this conversation further when I'm joined by political analyst, our regular guest here on SA Today, Dr Ntsikelelo Breakfast. It's always a pleasure to see you, sir. Thank you very much for joining us here on SABC News.
Thank you very much for having me.
There are some who might perceive the former President Thabo Mbeki as being more of a divisive figure rather than a unifying or a uniting one. And then, of course, one would then ask the question, is he indeed then the right person to speak on the issue of unity and to be sent on this mission of renewal and unity of the ANC in the Free State?
Yeah, so Flo, I think the return of former President Mbeki is very symbolic, but at the same time, I think it will be received with mixed feelings. I'll tell you why, because on the one hand, there are people inside the ANC and outside the ANC who hold him in a high regard because of his intellectual contribution to the body of knowledge. A case in point is his contribution to African Renaissance, his contribution to NEPAD, his contribution to the peer review mechanism, his contribution to the restructuring of the AU. On the other hand, there are people who are his critics who think that one of the reasons why there were so many deaths during his time was because of his HIV and AIDS policy. Some are critical of his gear policy, and even some blame him for the legal woes of the former President Zuma. Yeah. So not everyone is going to speak the same language about his return because he doesn't come back as a neutral person. He doesn't come back as a mediator, but he comes back as a person who is siding with a particular faction. Let's face it, I think is gravitating towards the Ramaphosa faction. Yeah. And also, I think the Zuma faction is very critical of him.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk about then, interestingly, then the significance of the Free State province being used for this renewal or the launch. I suppose maybe he will be going to other provinces. We don't know at this stage. I mean, rightly or wrongly so, when one hears Free State, one would think of the ANC Secretary General, Ace Magashule, was suspended ANC Secretary General. Might this then be some sort of an attempt to dilute that and to give a message to those who are perhaps in support of Ace Magashule that, you know what, that's done now. Another... And as you say, another faction is in the house now, is taken over now, or is taking over now. I mean, how do you read all of this as we're talking about Ace Magashule?
Flo, I don't think that the return of former President Mbeki is going to de-escalate the magnitude of the conflict within the ANC, in particular in Free State. Why? Because former President Mbeki has a history, in my opinion, of being embroiled in some factional battles of that province. If you read about Ace Magashule, how he rose to prominence and how he rose to power, former President Mbeki is always mentioned there. Also, I think him coming back might add fuel into the fire. So I don't think that it will basically do away with the tensions at play.
And I mean, then does that mean, Dr. Breakfast, that, factionalism within the party won't necessarily end? I mean, some will be talking about the fact that they want to unite the party, but in talking about uniting the party, want to exclude or push out some others. And that, as you said, indicates to, or shows rather, that there's divisions. The fact that you're saying you don't want factionalism, but you are part of another faction indicates that you're essentially part of the problem, aren't you?
Flo, I think throughout history, the ANC has had ups and downs. But the conflicts that have broken out in the ANC of late, if you compare them with the ones that have happened in the past, the ones of late have to do with who stands a chance to benefit from material gains. They have nothing to do, in my opinion, with the strategic direction of the party. I guess, I mean, you know, liberation movements at some point, they tend to be affected by issues of institutionalization of corruption, as it is the case currently with the ANC.
Yeah, and let's just wrap up our conversation. I was listening to my colleague Samkela Maseko's guest talking about the fact that bringing stalwarts into the province is so important and shows that the province takes renewal of the party quite seriously. Are people within the ANC, and particularly those the younger people in the ANC or in leadership, are they moved by their stalwarts? Are they moved by hearing from their stalwarts? Is that something that is indeed significant? How much would it make a change having President Thabo Mbeki back?
The problem, Flo, is that the stalwarts, when they come back, they tend to pick and choose which faction they want to support. And that escalates the conflict. Also, I think the young people, in my opinion, that have joined the ANC, let's say from the early 90s upwards, they have not made time to learn about the politics of the ANC. They have been baptized into factionalism themselves. And I think that also doesn't help as well.
All right, Dr. Breakfast, thanks so much, and we appreciate you always giving us your time here on SABC News. Keep well.
Thank you very much, Flo.